Hello, hello. Welcome to Ladies in the Law. My name is Allison Melendez.
I'm Michaela Dixon.
And welcome to our podcast. This podcast is about several topics, including how to curate your network in an authentic way, making legal topics digestible. And today we have our first guest.
Woo!
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Ayde Ruiz. I'm a paralegal at the Simon Law Group.
We're so excited. So this will be our first episode with Ayde, and we're going to be going over several topics. Ayde does an amazing job at our firm, and we think it would be so helpful for her to give us some of her tips and tricks on how to make your relationship with your attorney and your workload manageable and easy to do. So with that.
Yes. So our first question is how you became a paralegal and why you wanted to become one.
Oh, okay. So I was born in Calexico, California. That's where I grew up. That's where I went to school. I graduated high school and I went to San Diego State University, graduated with a bachelor's in criminal justice. Nice. And I always thought I was going to go into the criminal law side of things. And I was going to work with kids on probation. And I wanted to help people. That's what I wanted to do. And I graduated in 2009, and that's the time when the economy was really bad.
Oh yeah,
and all the programs were not being funded, and so I took a year off to try and decide. And then me and my husband saw a commercial on TV about paralegals and what they do, and he was like, "I think you'd like that," and I thought, "Yeah, I think so too." So I went and got my paralegal certificate and graduated with that in 2014. I did it really part time. And since 2014, I've been a paralegal. So that's 10 years.
Wow.
That's
amazing.
awesome. We love a supportive husband.
Yes.
And what do you enjoy about being a paralegal?
I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now, like working in personal injury. I like that I'm still doing what I wanted to do, which was to help people. Yeah. That's what I want to do. I like listening to their stories, the clients, and then seeing at the end the settlement or the trial, like that. I really like doing that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. How long have you been with the Simon Law Group?
3 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. We are so grateful for that.
Yes. So I know we'll be talking a little bit about your experiences, pros and cons, things that you've witnessed and examples of things you should do and things that you should not do as an attorney and as a paralegal. Can you tell us a little bit about what type of paralegal work you did before coming to the Simon Law Group and personal injury in general?
Yes. So before I was working at a firm that did breach of contract and subrogation. So we represented companies, insurance companies. And then I was working there also for their post-judgment department. Okay. So I was their paralegal supervisor there. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of collections. So I learned how to do wage garnishments, bank levies, put liens on properties, and I always felt like the bad guy, to be honest. I always felt like, hearing people calling, and it was just not, heavy. Yeah. So changing to personal injury, it was a completely different what I do here, and I like it more. I help the attorneys serve and draft some pleadings. So yeah, I'm really liking this side.
Good.
Of the law, yeah.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I know each kind of law firm has a different makeup. Sometimes a paralegal is assigned to one attorney. Sometimes they have several. Can you kind of talk about what the team makeup is like for you and how many attorneys you assist?
Yes. So right now I assist 3 attorneys. And at the other firm, it was 2 attorneys, but it was very high volume. So they had 200 cases. So it was very overwhelming, very stressful. And here it's way less cases, but I feel like what I'm doing here is way more important. Yeah.
I love that. Do you feel like juggling being able to support 3 attorneys, is it a lot? Is it manageable? How do you feel about it?
So far it's been manageable.
Okay.
It's been good, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, in terms of every single attorney that you work with, they have their own caseload. How do you stay on top of your tasks? How do you organize your tasks? How do you know how to prioritize them and how to kind of get them done?
Yeah, so at the beginning when I started, I didn't know how to prioritize. So I was just going by whoever sent it first. Yeah. That's what I'm doing. And then just with experience, I started learning this is more important than this. And I also, it's very important when the attorney lets me know this needs to be done today, like, or this can wait, like this is not that important. I think it's just with experience. I've learned to like see what is more important than something else, another task. So definitely just working, being there, getting the experience, practicing. That's how I've been able to manage. Yeah.
What do you do when all three attorneys are like, this has to go out today? Like, or like for whatever reason, there's like multiple things that are kind of time consuming that have to go out. Do you then rely on like another person to help you, or do you just have to like kind of get all three attorneys on a call and like, guys, let's figure this out?
I think it's only happened one time where I did have to tell Michaela, like, I'm working on something for this other attorney. And then she was like, okay, this can wait.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that like you're incredible at is communicating. And I think that like is something that would benefit all relationships within the workplace. But exactly that, where it's like, hey, like I am working on this. This is time sensitive. Is what you sent me time sensitive, or can this wait? Is huge. Or even as an attorney, when we're communicating with our paralegal, letting them know like, hey, can this get done this week versus, hey, this needs to be done today. But also making sure that like you have enough time, because it's also not fair to just be like, this needs to be done now.
Yes.
You know, so like if we can message you in the morning of like, this is due today, I'm still waiting on X, Y, and Z, but I'll try and get it to you by X time.
Yes.
Do you get a lot of rushes, or for the most part, do you find like you guys, your team has a system in place where things aren't just like getting rushed over to you on a weekly basis?
I think when we're on trial,
Yeah.
it's when we have a lot of rushes.
Yeah.
Like I know like these days I'm gonna sit here for a while. But other than that, I don't think so, right? I don't see a lot of like emergency unless it's like an ex parte. Like that's we all know like that needs to get done. But no, it's been okay.
I do feel like trial time is definitely when everything kind of goes awry.
The
Like you have really
exception.
great boundaries and all these things, and all of a sudden it's like, why am I still working at 7 p.m.?
Yeah. How so on your team, just going back to team makeup, are you the only paralegal, or is there another paralegal?
No,
with
we
you?
have another paralegal, and she has more experience than me. So I always, if I don't know how to do something, I know I have her, and I will ask her for help. Yeah.
Do you is there a way you guys divvy up work, or are you both responsible for the same things, and it's just like if you need help, you rely on that person to help support you?
I think we're both responsible, and most of the times, like I'll be like, I got it, or if sometimes she'll say she can take care of it. But yeah, we both.
Yeah, you guys have a great working system where it's like they're very communicative. Ayde is my paralegal on my team, so I feel like that's why we're like, I think that's how that works. But they're very communicative where it's like, I'm working on X, Y, and Z. Would you mind handling?
Yes.
Or if it's like, hey, I haven't done this, like you guys have really good candor of like, can you walk me through these steps and like why it needs to be done, how it can be done.
Yes, and she'll send me examples like I've done this before. Here's a case that I did. So she helps me a lot too.
So one thing that keeps coming up is like the importance of communication. And I think that Michaela kind of touched on it earlier. You have a really good way of over communicating. Can you tell us a little bit about how you develop that skill? And
Yes.
it's fine if there's war stories, go for it.
Yes. So the firm that I started at, I mean, I can tell you it was a very toxic work environment where I learned to work the way that I work because they were very, they would put a lot of pressure on me, and they would just blame everything on the paralegal. So then I learned to I take full responsibility, and I want to make sure that everything gets done, because if I didn't get it done, they would yell at me. Like they would blame it on me. So then I think I worked there for 7 years. So then I still feel sometimes like I still remember how I was treated there. So I have like PTSD where I'm like, I don't want anybody to get mad at me. I don't want to like upset anybody. So then I'm going to let them know like I can't get to this, or is this important? Can this wait for tomorrow? Things like that, because of how I worked at that other place. Yeah.
Can you give an example of something that you do that really works now though for your team? Like for example, if an attorney emails you something and you're not clear about it, are you following up with like a bunch of questions? Do you call them? Like what do you do to make sure that you're 100% clear on what you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, so if if it's like a long email with lots of steps, I will email back and say like, I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking me to do, because there was a few steps and I don't want to like, maybe I'm not understanding this correctly. So I will send an email and ask them like, is this correct? Is this what I'm saying right?
Yeah. Let me make sure I understand this is awesome. Ayde is really great at preempting instead of being reactive. So it's like, hey, I noticed that this might be missing, or hey, I noticed that like this might need to be done, which is so helpful to have just like multiple sets of eyes on something, especially like eyes that you very implicitly trust. So thank you.
Yes, no, that's great.
Something also that I know that like we've talked about is like when you are CC'd on emails. Can you kind of go into like why that is helpful for you as a paralegal working on a case?
Yes. So I really like that at this firm, the paralegals are copied on all the emails back and forth with defense counsel, because then I know what's going on in the case and I can see like where we're heading at, or why we stopped here, or why we're moving at this, why we're going to file this, or because at the other firm that I was at, they would keep the paralegals in the dark. We didn't know anything what was going on. They would just suddenly call me and tell me like, file an NCS. I'm like, did it settle? Like I thought you said it wasn't going to settle. Or there was times when I'd be preparing for trial. I'd be doing a trial binder. And then also suddenly they'd be like, we settled. But I had no idea that it was even going to get to that.
Yeah.
And I'd been working so hard with the trial binder, and all of a sudden you're telling me it's settled, and I had no idea that this was going to happen. But at this firm where I'm at right now, that never happens because I'm copied on everything. So I always know what's going on, if it's close to settle or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to elaborate on that too, what is helpful? So as you're reading through these emails, is that also helpful when the attorneys provide context? Like the reason why we're doing X is because X. Does that like help a lot?
Yes, that's very helpful when the attorney takes time to explain. Sometimes he'll send just an email to the team and say, this is why we're doing this, and gives us a whole explanation of why he's thinking the way he's thinking, why we're going to go in that direction, which I know like I feel spoiled because he doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Because at the other firm, they wouldn't do that, but he takes his time to explain, and that's very helpful.
It's so helpful, especially because it's probably not going to be the only time we have to do this. So to understand the logic behind why we're doing what we're doing, then the next time this comes up, we already know X, Y, and Z needs to be effectuated because we've experienced this already.
Do you think that also contributes to creating this environment of like trust and like collaborative team effort? Because like it's not just, I'm making all the decisions on my own. It's like I'm including my entire team because we all work together, and it almost makes like this relationship a little bit stronger, in my opinion. Do you think that helps?
Yes, definitely. Like when the paralegals included also in like the team meetings, when all of the attorneys are talking about the cases, and the paralegals invited to come, and I'm just listening, but I'm listening to them discuss the cases. And I'm learning and listening to them talk about it, because at the other firm where I was, they wouldn't do that. So I never knew what was going on. And we had hundreds of cases where I was completely lost, and here it's very different because they include us. They treat the paralegals like kind of like equal, like you deserve to be here to listen to this, and we're inviting you, and that's why you're here. Yeah.
I love that.
I'm so sorry that you had an experience that was not that, because you do not deserve that.
Thank you.
And I'm very glad you're still here.
Yes, thank you.
And I think it like really, the contrast, just hearing some of the examples that you give, it like really validates like when you have all these positive qualities, like you're working as a team, there's over communication, there's trust with your team. It makes you like happy to work with these people, because when you're constantly feeling like everything's going to be blamed on me if I don't triple check this proof of service, or if I don't triple check this motion, it just like it creates this toxic environment of like everything is on you and you can't make any mistakes. Like, no, like the attorneys also have to take ownership of what they're responsible for. Like as a paralegal, you're there to help and provide reminders and tips, but at the end of the day, they're signing. So
yes, no, and it would definitely like make me physically sick too. Like there'd be days where I'm like, I feel sick because I don't want to go to work because it was very toxic. I would get yelled at every day. And over here at where I'm at right now, that never happens.
Michaela never yells at you.
No, Michaela never yells at me.
I would cry.
And I feel like I can trust her if I don't understand something, like I can tell her, like, can you explain this? Can you tell me why or something? But at the other firm, it wasn't like that.
And I love that you kind of are touching on this. So when there are conflicts and there are, sometimes things do fall through the cracks or there's miscommunication because at the end of the day, we're juggling so many things. What has helped from your perspective when there are issues of conflict? Like, how do you best deal with conflict now in the environment that you are in?
That I'm in right now?
Yeah.
I think right now I'd feel like confident to say, like, I made a mistake and I know that the attorneys are going to tell me what to do next. Like, they're going to find a solution of this is how we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
And I'll pay attention next time. But like before, I could never tell them, like, I made a mistake because I had to have the solution already. I couldn't just trust that the attorney is going to tell me, well, it's okay. Now we're going to do this. This is how we're going to move forward from this. Yeah,
that is just mind-boggling to me because I feel like, first of all, like for my team at least, like they know I will never get mad at them if there's a mistake because I make mistakes too and we're all human, but just those are learning opportunities. And sometimes when mistakes are being made, is it because but is it because our team is overworked? Are we like juggling too many things at once? And I think it's a really good opportunity for people to take ownership and to be like, look, like the reason this happened is because our process is like, we're not doing this in the right order. And sometimes the paralegals have more information and insight because they're in the weeds versus sometimes the attorneys like are not seeing all the little details. And so,
yes. And sometimes they're the best learning experiences because it's like you make a mistake, you remember that feeling, you never want to make it again. And then like you move on and you know what to do for the next time. So it's also just like giving people grace. Yes. And it's not like no one's perfect and we're humans. And sometimes we're going to be too overwhelmed. Sometimes we literally will just miss an email, and so it's like you want to extend grace to someone in the same way you'd want it extended.
Yes. Definitely.
I think you're also really great. Like if I've missed something or if I forgot to put a signature on something, like you point them out in such ways where it never actually makes me feel like I made a mistake. Where it's just kind of like, oh, by the way, I noticed this is missing. Yes. I added it. Or it's like, hey, I noticed that this looks a little wonky. Like, how does it look on your computer? Like you do it in ways where I don't ever feel like added,
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good,
no, it's great.
Because that's something I wanted to ask you. Like I want to make sure that I don't make you feel like, hey, you made a mistake and literally I'm better because I'm catching it because at the other firm that I was at, I worked there for 7 years. So I got used to like always double checking everything because if I didn't, at the end, it was on me. Like if the attorney forgot to sign something, like it was my fault. So now like I still double check everything and make sure that nobody forgot a signature, make sure that the proof of service is correct. Like if it says that we're going to serve through email, that we're going to serve through email. Like I don't want it to say we're going to serve through mail and we're not really mailing it. So then sometimes I catch like proof of services are old, because defense counsel changed their email or they changed attorneys and the attorney's using an old proof of service. And then I'm like, oh, I have to tell her, but how do I say it?
Yeah, no,
because I don't want to make them mad. I don't want to make them think that I'm trying to show off because I caught it or something.
I got you. Yeah. No, I'm always just like, oh my God, I am so appreciative for your attention to detail. Truly. Like I know like, okay, it's past my eyes. It's past another set of eyes. Like I know, okay, like we all are signing off on this. Like this is good to go. But like your attention to detail makes me feel at peace. Okay, truly.
Good. Because then I resend it. I'm like, I'm sending it again just to make sure that it looks good and that I don't want to make a mistake, so then I resend it. Yeah.
No, it's great. And even just like your brain, like you are so incredibly intelligent that I come to you when I'm just like, hey, I don't know what this means. Like, have you encountered this before? Like, I know that they served this response. I have no idea when I have to do something. So like you are such like a great brain trust too to come to and just kind of workshop. So I appreciate the way that like you've created a safe space where like I don't feel like I have to act smarter than I am or anything. I can just be like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you help me in this? So
literally like 90% of the calls I make to my paralegal, I'm like, have you seen this? Because I haven't.
Yes.
And I know like my two paralegals did defense work before. So like the volume's bigger, so you just come across a lot more issues. And so I'll literally be like, I know this is a dumb question, but like it's 30 days, right? And it's nice to have that comfort where you don't feel like, oh my God, they're judging me, or like, oh my gosh, I'm the attorney, I should sound like I should already know this. Like, no, it's you guys are very familiar with dates because you're, my paralegal's calendaring that. So she knows and it's like fresh in her mind, versus sometimes I just am bad with dates. So I'm like just triple checking. But I think creating a culture where both the paralegals and the attorneys feel comfortable and like being very collaborative with each other, I think it helps foster that, because when you're kind of working in a silo, or you're by yourself, or you feel like everything's going to just fall on me, it's overwhelming and it's toxic, and it can lead to burnout, I think.
Yes.
And so we definitely want to, for part 2 of our next episode, we want to focus on tips that maybe attorneys can take just from a paralegal's perspective. Because I know we went over different things that you've experienced as a paralegal, but I think there's so much that can be learned from a lawyer's perspective and how to navigate that relationship. So
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
please tune into part 2 for our continued discussion on how to use your paralegal to both create a relationship of trust, and so that both sides can work to thrive together.
See you in a couple weeks.
See ya.